Hello everyone, my name is Ted Lacksonen and I'm known to many of you as the Country Thinker. Today I'm going to begin a series of podcasts in which I'm going to read my novel, The Eagle Has Crashed, from beginning to end. It's an idea that I got from author Scott Sigler, and his readers seem to really enjoy it, and hopefully you will too. This isn't intended to be anything really high-tech, it's really just me and you having a little bit of story time on a Sunday. For the first few episodes, I'm going to give a little bit of background material about the novel before I dive right into the story. So today I want to explain a little bit why I chose to use a novel to tell the story of the day when the national debt leads to an economic crisis. Well, first, I want to wake up people who are still asleep as far as the problem goes and really don't understand the problems we're facing. But also I want to reach people who talk about the national debt and what might happen to this country if we have a debt crisis. The people who talk about it like there's some abstract sense of what might happen. I want people to really begin to think about how this will affect us. Because after all, if something bad really does happen, it's going to affect real people, not just charts and graphs. So in other words, for the people who haven't gotten the memo, wake up America, we've got some serious problems that we need to deal with. This novel is just my effort and my way of trying to pass that message along. So if you enjoyed this story time, for better or for worse, let me tell you where you can get the novel in case you'd like to buy it. The best place to get it, in my mind, is my publishing website, clearpeakpress.com. Now, Clear Peak Press is the only place where you can get an autographed version, and as you go through the checkout process, there will be a box in which you can provide instructions to the seller, who would be me. And so all you do is you say, I'd like an autograph, etc., etc., etc. That is at clearpeakpress.com, and those are paper copies. You can also get paper and ebook versions at both Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can get ebook versions at the iTunes store, at the Sony store, as well as for just about every device in the universe from smashwords.com. So with a little bit of background and a little bit of housekeeping taken care of, let's move on to the novel itself and story time. So without further ado, let's begin The Eagle Has Crashed. Prologue, March 2029. The Island Man. Garvey Donegal was a rich man. Extraordinarily rich. Mind-boggling rich. As in 10 times richer than anyone who appeared in the world's wealthiest lists of Fortune, Forbes, or Money. But Donegal never appeared on any of these lists, and that was because of the reason he had amassed so much wealth. He wasn't greedy or materialistic. Indeed, Donegal's sleepy wooden home on a remote Pacific island was a shack when compared to Millionaire's Row in Newport, Rhode Island, or the movie star mansions of Hollywood. No, he didn't lust for wealth or power, although he had a ridiculous amount of both. What Garvey Donegal wanted was privacy. Simply to be left alone. His wealth and power had bought him peace and privacy far more secure than that of a survivalist holed up in an isolated cabin in Idaho, for no journalist or government dared touch him or even mention his name. Take the Ecuadorian dictator who held up Donegal as an example of the greedy capitalist pig that Guillermo Moreno's Marxist regime would destroy. A month later, the government was toppled by a military coup, and Moreno was found dead in the basement of the presidential palace, his body riddled with bullet holes. Although the media never knew of Donegal's involvement, world leaders got the message. Do not interfere with Garvey Donegal's privacy. How did he acquire such wealth? It wasn't through building a business empire like a modern-day Rockefeller, Gates, or d'Anconia. Garvey Donegal was an investor. Warren Buffett on steroids is how one associate described him. I wager on the affairs of mankind, he told his acolytes, and wager he did. Tens of thousands of little bets all across the globe at any given time. The day before, he had purchased an interest in a mango plantation in Mozambique, a palladium mine in Mongolia, and a software startup in New Delhi. He owned at least a little something in every country on the planet. Donegal was sipping coconut water and pondering a new fish processing facility in the Amazon when DeMarcus Watson joined him on the broad, wooden porch, carrying an immense leather-bound book. Donegal only hired new graduates, and Watson had recently graduated from the University of Pittsburgh with a double degree in economics and finance. Now, it wasn't some perverted lust for boys and girls in their early 20s, but a practical consideration. The young ones were easier to unteach. Donegal only had to scrub their minds of the voodoo economics taught by professors and not the ignorant gospels preached by the false prophets of the investing world, as he did with older associates he had brought on board in the past. Donegal liked Watson because he was smart. Wicked smart. Something his high school teachers in Philadelphia hadn't noticed. Watson had an 85% truancy rate, but still made good enough grades to get into Pitt. When he went to college on a football scholarship, he applied himself only slightly more, yet graduated with a 4.0. Hell, it was rare when Watson didn't earn every available point in a class in college. Watson set the large leather book on the tile-top table next to Donegal's Adirondack chair. The most successful investor in the world wasn't just old, 82, he was also old school. He fully appreciated the usefulness of computers, but had never touched one. Those machines were for his staff to use. Instead, he reviewed the charts and graphs and figures that portrayed the workings of the world in the same format as his father, on paper. His greatest material indulgences were these hand-bound tomes churned out each morning by locals on a nearby island. When he moved to the archipelago a decade earlier, he had brought in 3 Amish men to teach the islanders the fading art of bookbinding. And now their skills were so good that these daily Bibles, as he called them, were museum-worthy works of art. Donegal placed today's Bible on his lap and flipped through the pages while Watson stood silently before him. Every country had a chapter in the Bible in alphabetical order. He's flipped to the back, Watson observed. Uzbekistan? Uganda? The old man closed the book and sighed. It's finally come to this, he thought, before looking up to his apprentice. Sell everything we've got in the United States. The former wide receiver's eyes popped wide open. Everything? Yes, stocks, bonds, real estate, everything. Should we take a short position on some of it and make some money on the way down? No, just sell it all. You can't be serious. I am, Donegal said. He scowled. Remind me again why you didn't go to the NFL, DeMarcus? Because football players end up in wheelchairs with drill cups by the time they're 50. The old man nodded. And if you want to remain in the investing world, you'll do as I ask. That was the deal he made with all his apprentices. Do what I tell you, and you can go anywhere and do anything when you leave my service. Piss me off, and you'll eat from dumpsters for the rest of your life. Yes, sir, Watson answered. It'll all be gone by the end of the day. Donegal shook his head. Spread it out over the next few months. We don't want anyone to catch on to what we're doing. That would rattle the market, and I don't want to make things worse than they're already going to get. There were investors who spent their careers trying to figure out the old man's moves, in a vain attempt to construct portfolios just like his. The problem was that no one off the island knew where he had most of his money, and these copycat investors failed to understand how it all coalesced into a single, well-balanced global wager. They often lost a lot of money on days when Donegal made billions. We still have some time left, so we don't have to hurry, he continued. What do you mean, we have some time left? Watson asked. Donegal gazed from his porch and out to the ocean, and watched the breakers as they crashed at the edge of the coral reef. Some things are best learned by observing, and I'm not sure I could explain if I wanted, he sighed. You're a bright kid, and you're going to figure it out. By this time next year, everything will be clear. So you're wagering against the U.S.? He looked up to his tall apprentice and shook his head. No, the U.S. bet against itself, and I don't want to be at the table when the cards are played. And so ends the prologue to The Eagle Has Crashed. And next week we'll move on to the story itself. And hopefully you enjoyed our little bit of story time today. And give me some feedback. Tell me what you think. Anyhow, have a nice week, and we'll see you again, or hear from you again anyhow, next Sunday. Have a great week.